If you are ready to throw hands with somebody, it means that you've exhausted every bit of patience that you had, and each fiber of your body wants to get it going. In a fight, a lot of emotions are involved, a lot of hatred. Imagine doing this for a living and still having nobody that really hates you. Well, apart from one guy, but we'll touch on him later. Welcome back to another charisma analysis, and today I wanted to speak about Khabib Nurmagomedov, a fighter with an incredible legacy who left undefeated, who left at his prime, and who left undisputed. I love martial arts, so I hope that this video resonates with you. And if you happen to be somebody that practices martial arts like me as well, then you may see that in the clubs there's not a lot of, social awareness. A lot of the homies are somewhat awkward at times. I'm talking about both guys and girls. The people you're trying with probably appear quite confident within the club, and that's normal because they are used to it. But I've had experience with 3 different gyms now, with 3 different friend groups and all of that, that when you make plans outside of the gym, they tend to be a bit more rigid than normal. Okay, let's get the charisma analysis started. Today we only have 3 important points that have made Khabib earn everybody's respect, and how we could do it too in our own life. A little disclaimer, in these videos I never include things that may be somewhat out of reach. For example, the fact that he's quite possibly one of the best fighters ever, because that's not something achievable by everybody. Neither is it in everybody's interest to be this way, but it is certainly in everybody's interest to be respected. So I'm only going to show and talk more on the pragmatic and practical side of things than the obvious parts of Khabib that make him as amazing as he is. So to begin with, he has a multi-dimensional personality. Now before I explain exactly what I mean by that, why is it important to have a multi-dimensional personality? That is because I see a lot of people stick to one mood, one color, one vibe. And while it is good to have one mood and one vibe to create a stronger association or feeling connected to you, the downside of this is that at the same time people will only look for you when they are seeking that mood. And as complicated human creatures, we often require more than one answer. We often require more than one mood and one emotion, and if people only see you in one way, like a cold dude, like you got aura, whatever, then I'm afraid that they won't really go after you that often. If you're the type of person that's good with girls, or the opposite gender in general, they won't necessarily invite you if it's to play some sports, some volleyball, but they will just invite you when you're going to meet some ladies or some gentlemen, depending on what you are or what you're into. Now Khabib is revered as one of the most humble guys, especially for his position where he's the top fighter and the top everything, and he's dominating absolutely everyone. How can he stay so humble and not talk as much smack as the likes of Conor McGregor? But he's not only humble, he's also firm and stern about things. For example, there is a scene which we are gonna repeat later, where a reporter says to him, "Salam alaikum," which means peace be upon you in the Islam faith. It is a Muslim greeting. And right after that, he says to Conor McGregor, "Congratulations on Proper 12, which is a whiskey brand that Conor has made."
Assalamu alaikum, and Connor, congrats on Proper 12.
Thank you, sir.
Could we get an official prediction on the fight?
You cannot say salam alaikum and congrats about whiskey. Ooh.
A proper Muslim and a believer of the faith does not stand with or for alcohol. They negate it and disapprove of it. Instead of keeping quiet, what Khabib did was say, "Hey, you can't say salam alaikum and then congratulate about whiskey." Now the reason I bring up this scene and why I think it's important is because it shows the duality of being somebody that's very humble and more on the reverse side, where girls maybe unintentionally or indirectly flirting with him, and he's just like, "Thank you."
I'm very hungry.
So am I.
Thank you.
To being somebody that can plant his feet for something that he cares about, and he doesn't cut back on his words or hold back on his values or the way that he is. And this, though it may hurt people that you're dealing with at times, it will certainly earn your respect nonetheless. By the way, if you think I'm dick riding, you need to wait for the 3rd point. Facet number 2. He is deeply rooted in his values, and he truly lives them out. Khabib was born and raised in Dagestan, a place with a lot of Muslim population, mixed in with Russian culture. Thanks to his surrounding and parents and overall Khabib's heart, he was able to absorb the best of both worlds from Islam and Russia. What I want to pinpoint from this point is that he lives out the things that he believes in, like he walks the talk essentially. Now we are all flawed human beings, even Khabib, but when I see somebody that doesn't put an excuse for something like, in Islam, right, you have to pray 5 times a day. Now to anybody normal like me, you would think, damn, that's a lot of effort. But when things that you believe, enjoy and follow in general have rules that are you know, somewhat difficult at times, you will put excuses for yourself. But he doesn't even consider the excuse. People ask him how many times a day do you pray? Do you have to deal with it differently during training and when you're preparing for a match? And it's like, brother, in Islam we have to pray 5 times, so we pray 5 times. I'm just like, bro, it's so simple but so powerful, you know what I mean?
I meet some of the Muslims, he ask me, how many times you pray a day? We don't have like other rules, we have one rule, 5 times a day we have to pray.
Anyway, he's greatly respected by the Muslim community because of this kind of manly aspect of his character and the whole world in general. This is something that brings a lot of respect to his name. He lives the things that he preaches, that he believes in, right? You don't see him handshaking girls. Some people get offended by it, whatever, but if you're somewhat understanding, you can just say, okay, it's part of his like belief system, he's not gonna do that, that's fine, right? He actually treats people with respect, a lot of respect. Lastly, point number 3, it is that he is so manly. What I mean by manly and what I see of him is total freedom. Freedom of being himself completely. First off, his relationship with his father, at least before his passing, was so wholesome, so beautiful. The respect and the love that he had for his father, it was amazing. He always beamed up with light in his face and in his smile. When in an interview they asked about his father, he wanted to speak more of him. Next up is his devotion. To be devoted anyway in anything is such a discipline. He's tremendously devoted to his faith. Having a devotion of any kind is a masculine trait. Bear in mind that both men and women can have masculine or feminine traits. This just happens to be one that's masculine. Just how creativity is actually a feminine trait. A lot of people also think that you have to be stoic to be a man and to be in complete control of your emotions. And it is true, they should be in control of your emotions and to be stoic. But I found myself to have the same problem. This doesn't mean to just be cold and like, you know, like a moai chama. This means that you feel the emotions that you want to feel. And the reason that I bring this up is because you could make the case that he's not like the perfect man, which he isn't. But because he still like hates Conor or dislikes him or whatever. But actually I think this is one thing that makes him quite manly. Because he truly despises Conor. He was a total scumbag with him and he has every right to despise him.
Right now, even I don't wanna talk about this.
And instead of being like a perfect man, he allows himself to feel and he has no concern about what people may think. He just is himself. And he switches that mood constantly with no concern of the outcome, which bespeaks an incredible amount of self-confidence. To be in an ambient, right, where you need to hold professionalism and to suddenly see a good friend of yours like DC and starting to mess about and doing all sorts of things with him shows that you don't care about what others think, and it shows not only subconsciously but out loud. You are totally free of other people's opinions. But he's not only not afraid to be himself, but his real self is an amazing self. He pays for his friends, right, for Islam and Omar and all these people to train with him to go to America. He pays for the whole thing and doesn't say anything. Islam himself, he's on an interview and he says, I have to say this because he won't say it, no one will say it, and I just want to say Khabib is an amazing guy, he did all this for us, he trains with us, blah blah blah. He's retired and he's still training really hard to help the guys.
We come to USA without him, to San Jose. He rent big house for team. He rent a lot of cars for team, and nobody pay. He pay for everything, you know. That's why I cannot explain to you about like Khabib, because he do a lot of stuff, but nobody know this. But we always have to tell him. Thank you.
To be a person of such good character makes sense not to be ashamed of your own character. Makes sense to be the one that holds a voice in a meeting with problems, like where they had some problems with Khamzat Chimaev and all these things, and he was the one, even though he wasn't the oldest, which, you know, is typically the role that gets these things delegated, he was the one speaking and saying, this is not a representation of who we are. We have love and we have peace and respect for one another, and we want to show this video to show that we are now fine and on good terms and that we wish for everybody to move on. Right, he was giving this type of speech, I saw it like a year ago, I don't really remember that well. And this was just another side of Khabib's character. He showed us humility. He showed us how stern he was with his faith. He showed us how friendly and joking he was with DC or Islam. And he showed us how he could command a room and respect. Bear in mind, in front of Khamzat Chimaev, who's the notorious guy in MMA for being absolute bonkers. Khabib Nurmagomedov is gonna go down in history as one of the greatest fighters ever. But he's also going to go down as a great man, first and foremost. Which, arguably, is probably what made him one of the best fighters ever. Hope you liked the video. If you did, I'm glad and I'm happy. I make this video to hope to teach you something, and I only bring up the realistic points. I leave out all the other shit. So I hope that you can enjoy as well as learn something from these videos. Because growing up, I had my own kind of mentors, and I know that not everybody has them, and I hope that maybe this could help you a little bit. If you did enjoy it, do something so that I get recommended again. I'm not gonna tell you to subscribe or to like or to comment. You can pick your poison. But yeah, strive to be 1% better every day. And much love.